vocal, but she's not. So, but when the second time her house was graffiti, the first time they blamed the Haredi rabbis, the second time they blamed me specifically for inciting violence against them. They said, Ronit Peskin and Women for the Wall have incited violence against us, and this is why a woman is being attacked outside her home. Next time what? Next time she's going to be killed? Like that? No, not killed. They said something next time like she'll be physically harmed. So it's just not okay. You can't blame things that are. You can't blame me for violence, especially when I've been actively fighting to stop the violence. Now, on the other hand, we actually have videos of when guys are screaming at Women on the Wall. The first 2 months when guys were screaming at Women on the Wall, and we were going to the guys trying to shut them down the same month that actually they took pictures of me in the Saudi Gazette. That same month, when we were trying to calm the guys down, Anat Hoffman, and her, instead of facing the Kotel this direction, she had everyone face the guys, and she actually waved everyone forward to come as close as they could, and they started blowing kisses at the men. I mean, does that look like someone who's just trying to pray peacefully, or does that look like someone who's trying to get a reaction? Why, again, why the reaction? Because the reaction helps them. They are the biggest fundraisers right now in the Jewish world, if I'm not mistaken. They actually raise in excess, after their expenses, they have about $3 million left over each year. Now, this money goes to fund IRAC, which is the Israel Religious Action Center, the Reform Community's legal arm in Israel. Now, I find this quite ironic that Anat Hoffman claims to be a freedom fighter fighting for religious freedom, when IRAC, what they do is they sue people that live a way of life that the Reform community doesn't approve of. Among them, they, hold on, let me just, sorry, I have, basically one of the things they did, Radio Kotel is a Haredi radio station, and the Haredi radio station that had, because it was for the Haredi community, run by the Haredi community, they wanted men broadcasters only. And everyone who listened to it and was on the radio station was happy with that. Now, Anat Hoffman and IRAC, she's the head of IRAC, not just working for IRAC, she is the head of IRAC as well as the head of Women of the Wall. And many actually of the board members of Women of the Wall are actually board members of IRAC. So the two are linked together, and donations that come to Women of the Wall actually go to IRAC. IRAC pays for Women of the Wall's expenses, and whatever's left goes to fund IRAC's legal battles. So one of the legal battles was they sued the Radio Kotel to force them to have women broadcasters on their show, even though none of the people in the community wanted it and none of the people running the show wanted it. Who wanted it? IRAC. Another example, there was arrest and relaxation community center that they were trying to build up in Rehovot for soldiers to come and just have coffee, have some like in between when they're not at the base, just a place to relax. And there was also some shiurim offered. The community of Rehovot was some Torah shiurim offered. The community of Rehovot was ecstatic about this idea. They approved it completely. There was a petition, most of the residents of Rehovot signed that they wanted this, but IRAC sued to stop the building of this, to halt the construction, because, as Anat Hoffman says, actually IRAC, it was actually, they said that Orthodox, religious and non-religious Jews cannot live together, and therefore we do not want this rest and relaxation center in Rehovot. Again, religious freedom, or is it our opinion trying to enforce our opinion on everyone else? Ironically enough, Anat Hoffman ran for community council in Jerusalem about 25 years ago, and her platform pretty much was, we need to stop the Orthodox from moving into our community. Again, freedom fighters or trying to impose your opinion on everyone else? So as I said, when people donate money to Women of the Wall, the money actually goes to support IRAC and support their legal campaigns, to actually force the Haredi community, and not just the Haredi community, a lot of times it's also the religious Zionist community, to do things in a way that goes against their religious values, because that's what IRAC feels that they need to do. Now, I have said many times that the leadership of Women of the Wall is supremely problematic because of their connections to IRAC and because of many other connections. They've recently came out that they're connected to some very anti-Zionistic, anti-Israel organizations, such as Anat Hoffman is the head of she's also the head of the Damari Society and the Gypsy Society in Jerusalem, which is part of the Al-Quds grassroots, which is against the Judaizing of Jerusalem. Anat Hoffman also is the founder of Women in Black, which is an organization that was fighting against the occupation of past 67 borders, and was fighting for any land that was not now in Israeli territory before 67 to be given back to the Arabs. And FYI, the Kotel was 67 conquered, so if they're fighting to give back the Western Wall, if they're fighting to give back land conquered in 67 to the Arabs, that would include the Kotel. And now Hoffman herself has said she finds no special value in the Kotel. The only thing about the Kotel that she likes is that that's where her community was formed. So, the leadership of Women of the Wall is supremely problematic. And we've said many times that Women of the Wall there's many sincere members of Women of the Wall. I actually happen to know one myself. I've known her since I was a little kid. I know she's a sincere woman who wants to connect to God, and she's part of Women of the Wall as part of that desire to connect to God. And I'm sure some of you probably also know Women of the Wall members who are also very sincere human beings, sincere people looking to connect to God religiously. And we know that, and we've said, look, this is what your leadership is like. This is who you're supporting. You need to get new leadership or make your new group doesn't have this leadership. As long as we publicize what the leadership has done about their with Iraq and about what they're claiming to try to change Orthodox Jews, and they're talking about how how Orthodox Jews are misogynistic and they've told us we have Stockholm syndrome and things of the sort. So we said this is what your leadership says. Do you agree with them? If so, continue being with them. If you don't agree with them, pick new leadership or make a new group. So long as you continue to support leadership that is doing this, we will have to. You'll be judged for your leadership. You'll be and so we've said this many times, and people say, and basically people they don't really say they haven't done anything much to say we don't agree with leadership. So they're not saying that. So how much there's a problem there. Even if they're sincere, if they're supporting a leadership that's doing that, it's definitely problematic. But because we've actually, the Israeli government has been listening to us lately. We've had meetings with Knesset members, with the people in charge of trying to find solutions at the Kotel, with Chaim Mandelblit and Natan Sharansky, and Women of the Wall are kind of a little nervous about that. And not only that, once we've actually been publicizing their agendas and about women's rights, and we've actually shown that there's another side to the story, and people are hearing that, they're losing support. So because of that, they're trying to gain more support, and one of the ways to do that is trying to be a little less radical. Avichai Mandelblit offered a solution, also like Natan Sharansky's solution, but a little less. It's not whatever. It still hasn't been fully published in the report, but it's similar to Natan Sharansky's proposal. And Women of the Wall have said recently, after we've been around for 6 months, after they've said they refuse to accept any compromise, more recently they said, you know what, we agreed to start discussing with the government about the possibility of a compromise. They said we'll only even consider compromising if you give us this list of 26 demands. 26 demands, one of which is to shut up Women from the Wall and make sure we're eliminated. That's one of their demands. Before they compromise, Women from the Wall has to cease to exist. Yeah, quite problematic from a freedom of expression type of perspective. So they agreed to potentially, they haven't actually done anything different, but they've agreed to potentially consider talking about moving to Robinson's Arch section. And even this was enough. I mean, and of course, Rachel Cohen-Yeshurun, one of the board members, said that when people were very upset about this, how could you even consider moving? She said, listen, we haven't agreed to move. The decision to move to Robinson's Arch is years away, if ever. So they haven't agreed to it, but it makes them appear like they're much less radical, that they've even agreed to start talking with the government about the possibility of compromise. But this was too much for the founders of Women of the Wall. And the founders of Women of the Wall, the same ones that talked about how they cannot possibly move over because they have to pray with Haredi women because they're trying to change us, among many other women like Phyllis Chesler, who talked about how Orthodox girls are like rapists and like people who do genital mutilation and murderers and do honor killings, and how we are marching under orders of our rabbi handlers and other things like that. These women said, I cannot even believe that you're considering moving. Even if you haven't moved, even the fact that you've even discussed the possibility of compromise, you've lost the whole we've lost the whole point of this, and we are forming a new group. We're going to call ourselves the original Women of the Wall, or Oh Wow. And Oh Wow is having their first tefillah service at the Kotel this Friday. So now, even if a Woman of the Wall does eventually agree to move, which I highly doubt based on their impossible list of demands, there's still another group to contend with, the Oh Wow, which are, as I said, they're the ones who are started Women of the Wall, and they're also getting traction, but there's, as I said, there's divisions within the two groups, and they're the ones that are causing some of the biggest Hashem, and they're the ones who are going and trash-talking religious Jews the most. So, we have a problem here. Now, what we're trying to do, it's not, I mean, we knew from when we started our group that this would be an uphill battle, because, as I said, the media is biased against us, and it's very hard for us to be heard, because in most places that we're trying to go speak to, they're not even interested. That's why I said I'm really appreciative that I was brought here, because some of the places say, we're not interested in hearing what you have to say. We have our opinion, we're not interested in what you have to say. Lucy Statler was this girl that this past Rosh Chodesh was flown into Israel by a group called Moving Traditions to join Women of the Wall, and she was there to fight for women's rights. And I said, Lucy, I saw her at the Kotel, and I said, Lucy, congratulations on winning. I'm glad you're in Israel. If you'd like to hear another perspective, I'd be happy to talk to you. And I basically was told, go away, we're not interested in talking to you. And I wrote an open letter afterwards. I said, why can't she hear another side? Like, what's wrong with her hearing both perspectives? And I was pretty much told by the Moving Traditions, the group that brought her in, that when Mashiach comes, you can talk to her. Again, as I said, we have an uphill battle because people don't even want to hear what we have to say. I don't care if people agree with me or not. I think it's important that people have a choice. And people can't, as I said, you can't make your own decision if you only heard one side. So that's why we're on a speaking tour now, to try to make sure that people have a chance to hear another side and make up their own mind. And we're also here we're trying to, our goals for Women of the Wall, we're trying to stop the negative media campaign against the religious community and against Israel. And we're also trying to spread a positive message about Israel and a positive message about the religious community. And we are also, we're also trying to stand up for our rights as women. And that's one of the things we're doing is as I said, we're going on speaking tours. We're also continuing to bring women to the Kotel to show that, to continue showing that that you can't let a small group dictate to the majority, because you're trampling on the rights of the majority. And because it's a zero-sum game, really. When you have one group of people insisting on something at the exact place where other people are trying to do something and refusing to find any compromise, as I said, it ruins it for everyone. So I'm almost finished. I have almost 3 sentences left. So we're trying to spread the message, and we're also we'd like to make a series of videos about the women's role in Judaism and the reason why women in Judaism and Orthodox Judaism generally have a different role than men do, and basically to spread a positive message about traditional Judaism. And for this, we're also trying, one of the other goals of our speaking tours, we're also trying to fundraise, because we're working on this extremely low budget, let's put it this way, like 0 budget. And Women of the Wall, as I said, have a $3 million surplus every year. So it makes it really hard, because basically we're fighting against the Goliath with and no, we don't have David's slingshot. So basically, I appreciate you coming to listen to me, and as I said, you don't have to agree with me. I really appreciate that they took the opportunity to hear what another perspective is. And I hope that when people actually tell you about the situation in Israel and how they're fighting for women's rights, that you also consider the fact that other women also have rights, and you can't let one person's rights tread on other people's rights as well. Thank you very much.